Hey guys, welcome to the Bulwark. We are here on Monday, August 19th, first day of the Democratic Convention, and we have Joe Perticone, who is in Chicago. The backdrop conveys some arena type situation with black drapes, assuming you're inside the United Center. Is that right?
No, so there's a tent right outside the United Center, but within the security perimeter where all the reporters are until the festivities actually begin. So that's right.
Okay. Okay, before we get into the heart of the matter, which are 5 things to watch for the convention, I wanted to give Joe the floor to complain about logistics. Joe, take it away.
So for all the things Republicans are not good at, one thing they are very good at is event planning. This is my experience across multiple RNC primary debates and conventions and going to DNC organized ones, and the Democrats, they just don't know what they're doing. We're in this tent with these fans, and so the walls are made out of curtains. And because the fans are so powerful, the walls don't work because they're just flowing everywhere. There's no power outlets anywhere. The same setup was like this in Philadelphia in 2016. And if it rains like it did there, this whole place is going to flood like it did there. So Democrats, like maybe that's a priority if you win this election, is to hire more.
Get better at logistics, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to show up tomorrow, clearly. I'm very excited about that. All right, Joe, let's get to the actual heart of the matter, which is we're starting tonight. Big week for the Democrats. Speakers tonight include Joe Biden and the First Lady, as well as Hillary Clinton. And we'll go through Thursday when Vice President Harris will take the stage for her big speech. So you have 5 things to watch out for. I'm going to go through one by one. You explain why. So your first thing is Biden will formally pass the torch. What are you looking for?
So he's already done so. He announced he wouldn't run. Harris has already formally accepted the nomination, technically. But this will be the symbolic one that is more impactful because people will get to see it. I think you can expect him in his speech tonight to behave. If you're familiar with Cincinnatus from ancient Rome, he was a general who was granted universal power, and then right after a victory, relinquished it all and went back to the farm. And people love that. And so this convention, it was going to be very Stygian if he had still been the nominee. It is now going to be like a lot of appreciation for Biden because most Democrats loved the Biden record and they loved the policy. The issue is that they hated how poorly he translated it to voters to the point where it got to a breaking point and they had to figure out how to get him out of this race, which he willingly did. It was ultimately his decision. And so you're going to see a lot of that thank you, Joe Biden move. And I think that like just knowing how Biden has behaved over certainly the past couple decades, I wouldn't expect him to jab Nancy Pelosi the way like a more bitter president we could think of would if they were forced out of something. And so I think you're gonna see a big it's gonna be appreciation and there's significance in that Biden is speaking tonight. Because if he passes the torch tonight, it closes the chapter. Right. And the Harris, the whole week is then dedicated to Harris. If Biden was the speech leading into Harris on Thursday, that wouldn't be a chapter closing. Whereas this, it allows the whole week to be just about.
Yeah, I actually had thought he was going to be the introductory speaker for Harris, but this does make more sense in retrospect. Let me just extend the metaphor. In Cincinnati, he goes back to the farm. Biden will go back to Rehoboth Beach. Not dissimilar, I suppose. Your number 2 one is Democrats will be unified, kind of a relation to number 1, but talk a little bit more about why that's something you're looking out for.
So part of hastily changing campaigns this close to Election Day is that they don't really have to create this formal policy plan. There's Harris, who's kind of running on the incumbency, but not running on the incumbency. She's a fresh start, but also is a continuation of the current system. She's been very vague about policy. Part of that might be due to the rigors of being vice president, altering her from her very leftist past. And that's like a normal evolution, but there's also the possibility that like it's a good thing to be kind of vague because, you know, an undecided voter can import what they want onto you. And it's, you know, if it's a campaign of personalities, like Harris is winning that 9 times out of 10, probably 10 times out of 10. And so if there's not like a clear view of what she stands for in a certain thing, there's also like a deliberate attempt to misdirect like what Trump, he likes to misdirect what he stands for on a lot of things.
Right.
And so if the undecided voter is able to just say, well, I like that person better, and they don't really have a clear view, then that's good for them. And so if they're very unified without committing hard on policy, that's a good thing for them. And you're going to see a lot of that without people like wanting to get into these policy fights that you normally see in the lead up to the convention.
Let me ask before we get to number 3, the only addendum I would add is that there's a big protest today, half a mile away, around the war in Gaza. Does that threaten the type of unity that you're looking out for?
I think so. A lot of those people, though, are outside the arena. Right. And so we can talk about it in the next thing to look out for the protesters is that, you know, they can have a big impact because like the smallest skirmish, even if it's a mile away from the arena, the smallest skirmish can have a huge impact online. And it can immediately be wall to wall on Fox News and any other cable outlet that like wants to see that kind of thing. There's also like the historical fear of, you know, the last time a convention was in Chicago, it was very violent. It was very dangerous.
Right. Well, this is something you're looking out for. You mentioned the Chicago parallels. This is your 4th, but we're taking number 3 thing to look out for. What are they doing, the organizers of the convention doing to try to keep these protesters under wraps?
So the distance is a big thing. There's a protest at noon today, which you'll be able to read about in the newsletter. And that is taking place like half mile-ish from the arena, and it's in its own park. And so it's further away. So if you recall in the early days of this protest movement around Gaza, at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, a lot of protesters were harassing attendees.
They were on top of me.
Yeah, like going in and out. I don't think you'll be able to see that because of the police presence, because of the different layers of security. And there's only specific areas where you can come in and come out. And that's heavily policed, not just because they don't want people protesting there, but like it's a safety issue. Like they have to secure the arena. So everything is going to be very removed. But I think you'll expect to see, you know, at least in some of the lower level speeches, you can see a lot of rhetoric that will express solidarity with them, which probably won't satisfy them at all.
And did the DNC not include a meeting to discuss the situation in Palestine as sort of an olive branch to the protest movement?
Yeah. And, you know, I think there's some ease with the Walz pick too, because Walz has very good approval rating on things like human rights. And he was governor of Minnesota, which has a very large Muslim constituency. Right. And so there's a little bit more optimism, I think, than there previously was, which is why these protests might not have the impact they would have if he was still Biden at the top of the table.
Got you. All right, number 3, but it is actually our 4th because I skipped ahead. Things you're looking out for: Democrats who will be missing. Who's not going to be there?
A lot of the vulnerable members. Some of them, for example, Bob Casey from Pennsylvania, he has kind of pivoted. He was terrified to be seen or associated with Biden. And since Harris jumped in, he's moved back and is now like alongside Harris. And he ran out on her rally she had in Philly. He was there to introduce her, and they'll be there. But there's some members who are sticking to their stay away from the top of the ticket strategy. Jackie Rosen in Nevada, Sherrod Brown in Ohio, John Tester in Montana. And then at the House level, there's quite a few as well. Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez in Washington's 6th district, I believe. She's probably the most conservative Democrat, her and Jared Golden in Maine, and neither of them are going to be coming. And so that's a big contrast to the RNC a few weeks ago, because I saw Gluesenkamp-Perez has a a neighbor district right across the border into Oregon. And she is in just as vulnerable of a district, Lori Chavez DeRemer. And she was front and center walking the floor the whole week.
Right.
So they're running and sticking to the top of the ticket.
Got you. Now, some people who might be here that we don't quite know about, and we know a few of them, celebs. There's going to be 4 celebrity hosts for each night of the evening. I put quotation marks around some of them.
Yeah.
I'll grant that of Kerry Washington and Mindy Kaling.
Tony
Goldwyn. Yeah, I guess so. Anna Navarro, is she a celebrity? Do we count that?
I don't think she counts as a celeb.
Yeah, she's like a political celebrity. What are we doing here? Yeah. All right. Well, what other celebrities are we looking out for? Are there anyone else that I'm looking at?
If you think of like
T-Swift?
big, maybe. So I consulted an expert, my sister, and she said that her tour in London ends this week. So she's free Wednesday and Thursday, which are prime speaking days. I've got an alert on Taylor Swift's private jet tracker to see if she
pay the big bucks, press pass people
suddenly like books a flight to ORD or makes her plane go there. So that's something we're keeping an eye on. But I think there's just going to be a lot more. You know, it's not like the RNC where you have
Hey, they had Hulk
Hogan, Kid Rock. They have big supporters like John Voight,
Dana White,
Kelsey Grammer.
That counts.
But you'll see a lot more here. If you think of like big Democratic donors, it's like Robert De Niro.
It would be ironic
Tom
and interesting
Ford.
if like Clooney showed up, since he facilitated Biden's demise, and then comes onto the stage and anoints Kamala. I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't know. And like he's more behind the scenes. Like he's much like a lot of them. They play a role as like fundraisers, and it often like doesn't look good when they come out and speak on their behalf unless they're naturally good at it. Because if you remember, Robert De Niro was outside the Trump courthouse and that was like, it made them look very unprofessional.
Right.
And celebrities are not good at staying on message as good as they are at reading scripts. Like when they're not on set, they're not good at staying on message. So we'll see, but you can expect to see a lot more.
All right, I'm going to give you my 3 things. So those are your 5 things. I'm going to give you 3 others that I'm looking out for in addition to your 5. You tell me what you think of these 3. 1, how long will Bill Clinton speak for? A notoriously long-winded ex-president. He can go over an hour on these things. That used to be considered too long, but I think Trump has kind of redefined what is an appropriate length for a speech. 2, will Trump be mentioned that much? I don't know. I'm kind of curious if they actually go after him that much or if they try to make the convention about Harris predominantly. And 3, gender. Will it be featured at all in this convention? I remember 2016, it was a main undercurrent of the Clinton convention, breaking the glass ceiling, the excitement of having finally a woman nominee in the general election. But a political article today that I was kind of jealous of because I wanted to do it myself noted that she's gone to great lengths to not talk about her history-making run, her gender or her race so far in her brief campaign. So those are the 3 things I'm looking out for. What do you think? Smart? Stupid? What?
No, I think it's smart. On the point about will Trump be mentioned, I think he will to a great deal, just not by name. They give him like the Voldemort treatment. They say like that man or
the ex-president,
the former president, or it's always like coded in some way, or like someone who shall not be named. So you can expect a lot of that. In terms of by name, no way. And certainly like if you look at Kamala's speech, it would probably be like political malpractice to mention his name.
Oh no, she can't mention him. Yeah. No, she could allude to him and say, we can't go back. We have to get rid of this politics.
Yeah. Or say like, the politics of the past, coded words like that. So we'll see. I think there'll be a few though in their speeches, especially at the lower levels.
Yeah.
But that's a good observation. In terms of gender as an issue, you're right. She hasn't really played it up at all.
Barely.
And I think a good example of that and how gender and race factors into that was when Trump said that Kamala wasn't black until she decided to be she didn't dwell on it, which I think a previous version of Kamala, not a previously not black version, but a previous political version of her would have dwelled on that. And I think it speaks to how well she's been coached and how much she's figured out like her political tone, that she just said, this is bozo behavior. I want to talk about like policy.
It's that meme where they're in the car and they say, that's bait. That's bait. She knows it's bait. Yeah. Okay, Joe, this is very helpful. Really loving the backdrop here. The walls being pushed by the fan. An elegant setting for you. I'm glad you found a plug-in too. We'll be hearing from you a ton during this convention. Two things. One, press pass every day of this convention, so you all should sign up for it. Two, Joe's going to be doing a lot of video from Chicago. I'll be doing a little bit myself, so you should subscribe to the Bulwark on YouTube and share with all your friends. Joe, thanks a bunch, man. We'll be in touch, okay?
Yeah.